I found the address tucked inside an old birthday card, buried in my husband's desk. The name on it was Sarah. That's the moment I realized 35 years of marriage were about to collapse. I phoned my lawyer before I even thought of calling David. And when I finally drove out to that farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania, I carried a fully charged phone and the backbone I should have found years ago. If you're watching this, make sure to subscribe and tell me where you're tuning in from. But let me back up, because you need to understand how a reasonably sharp 63-year-old woman ends up acting like a detective in her own marriage. For 8 years, David had been sending $500 every single month to his sister, Sarah. When I asked about her early on, he slipped into that patronizing tone men use when they want you to stop asking questions. She's had a hard life, Maggie. Lost her husband young. Raising her daughter alone. Family helps family. I'd felt ashamed for even questioning him. David came from a large family scattered across 3 states. I'd only met a handful of them at our wedding decades earlier, so it seemed reasonable, at the time, that he wanted to support a struggling sister. The business trips started 6 years ago. Once, sometimes twice a month, he'd drive 4 hours to check on Sarah. She needs help with the house, he'd explain. Repairs, that sort of thing. Whenever I suggested coming along to finally meet the sister I'd been financially supporting, there was always an excuse. Sarah was shy. Her place was too small. She wasn't in the mood for visitors. Eventually, I stopped pressing. Looking back now, I see how neatly I handed him the freedom to build a second life. The signs were all there. The way he'd shower immediately after returning, frozen. His habit of leaving his phone face down on the table. The faint smell of laundry detergent that wasn't ours clinging to his clothes. But I ignored them. David managed all our finances. I'm the lawyer, Maggie. Let me handle the boring stuff, he'd say whenever I asked. I had one checking account for groceries. The investments, retirement funds, his business accounts. That was all. Too complicated. For me, and I trusted him. Completely. The birthday card changed everything. While searching for property tax documents, I stumbled across an envelope addressed to David in loopy, feminine handwriting. Inside was a card showing a lake at sunset. The words read, "Happy birthday to someone special. Thank you for everything you do for us. With love, Sarah and Emma." Emma. He'd never once mentioned Sarah having a daughter named Emma. My hands shook as I snapped a photo of the return address, before slipping everything back exactly as I'd found it. That night, over dinner, I asked casually, "How's your sister Sarah?" David didn't even glance up from his pot roast. "Fine. Same as always." "And her daughter?" I asked. "What was her name again?" The tiniest pause gave him away. "Lisa. Her name's Lisa." He couldn't even remember his own lie. For 3 days I played the perfect wife while my mind raced. Maybe Sarah had 2 daughters. Maybe I misread the card. Maybe, just maybe, there was some innocent explanation. But I've been married long enough to recognize the weight of a lie. It hangs in the air differently. By Thursday morning, after David left for work, I got in my car and started driving west. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I'd pull up to find exactly what David had described: a tired sister making ends meet. Grateful for her brother's support, I even rehearsed what I'd say. I'd introduce myself warmly, laugh about how odd it was we'd never met. We'd share coffee. I'd meet Emma, or Lisa, or whoever she was. Everything would click into place. But as the drive stretched on, the landscape grew lonelier, farmland fading into endless forest. My GPS finally led me down a dirt lane, until the house appeared suddenly around a bend. A small but immaculate farmhouse, painted fresh, blue shutters gleaming, flower boxes spilling color. This wasn't a struggling home. It was thriving, and parked right there in the driveway was David's silver Lexus. At 11 on a Tuesday morning, he was supposed to be in Philadelphia, reviewing contracts. My stomach turned. I eased my car behind an overgrown hedge, about 50 yards back, and killed the engine. My hands shook so badly I gripped the steering wheel, just to steady myself. Through binoculars, something I never thought I'd use at my age, I studied the place. Solar panels on the roof. a greenhouse behind the barn, a shiny SUV parked beside David's car, a swing set in the yard, the kind that costs over $1,000. This wasn't the picture of hardship. The front door opened. A young woman stepped out, maybe mid-30s, long auburn hair tied in a ponytail. Jeans, fitted sweater, slim figure. She walked to the SUV, pulled something from the back, and turned to smile at someone inside. David appeared. He kissed her. Not a brotherly kiss. A kiss that spoke of years of intimacy. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might collapse. Then came the final blow. A little girl ran out of the house, about 7 years old, dark curls bouncing. She had David's nose. His exact nose. He scooped her up, spun her around, both of them laughing like it was the most natural thing in the world. This wasn't just an affair. It was a whole second family. I sat in my car for 3 hours, watching him live a life I knew nothing about. Watching the woman who smiled at him with casual ease. Watching the child cling to him with love and belonging. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked to the front door. Through the window, I saw them on the sofa. David reading to the little girl, his voice gentle and familiar. The young woman placing a tray of hot chocolate and cookies beside him. A perfect domestic scene. A scene that should have been mine. I knocked. David's head snapped up, alarm flashing across his face. And in that moment, I knew nothing in my through the window. I saw David's head snap up, his expression shifting in an instant, from relaxed to stricken. The door swung open. The young woman stood there smiling, clearly expecting a neighbor or a delivery. Her face drained of color when she saw me, an unfamiliar older woman standing on her porch. "Can I help you?" she asked politely, voice soft with curiosity. "I'm looking for Sarah," I said, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. "I'm Maggie Sullivan, David's wife." Her smile collapsed. Behind her, I heard the sharp intake of breath and hurried footsteps. David appeared in the doorway, his face contorted with panic. If it weren't destroying my world, it might have looked comical. "Maggie, what are you doing here?" "I found your birthday card," I replied evenly. "From Sarah and Emma." The woman made a strangled sound. "Not Sarah then. Another name. Another lie unraveling." "It's not what you think," David blurted, perhaps the most predictable line any guilty man has ever spoken. "Really?" My voice stayed calm, even conversational. Years in corporate law had taught me the power of quiet words. People lean in, and they sting more. "Because what I think is this: for 8 years. You've been sending money to someone who isn't your sister. You've lied to me every single time you came here on those so-called charity visits, and that little girl inside, she has your nose, your eyes, and your DNA." The woman, whoever she truly was, began to cry, silent tears running down her face. David looked ready to collapse. "Maggie, please, let me explain. Can we go somewhere and talk?" "Oh? I'm not going anywhere," I said firmly. "Not until I understand exactly what I'm looking at. So let's start with the basics. What's your real name?" Her voice wavered. "Nicole. Nicole Peterson." "And the little girl, Emma?" Nicole nodded, unable to form words. "Is David her father?" Her whispered yes detonated like a bomb in the quiet air. David's confident facade, the charge attitude that had carried him through decades in law, crumbled. He suddenly looked older, smaller, defeated. "How long?" I asked. My voice was calm, too calm. Shouldn't I be screaming, throwing things? But I felt like ice, sharp, clear, unbreakable. "Maggie." David reached for me. I recoiled as if his touch would burn. "Don't touch me." Each word landed like a hammer. "How long?" Nicole wiped at her eyes. 9 years. We met 9 years ago. 9 years. Emma was 7. Which meant this affair had turned into a second family, just 2 years in. While I thought David was on business trips, he'd been rewriting his life. "I'd like to come inside," I said flatly. "Unless you'd rather the neighbors hear this conversation." Nicole stepped aside without a word. David looked like he wanted to argue, but thought better of it. Inside, the truth hit harder than anything spoken. Family photos lined the mantel. David cradling baby Emma, David and Nicole at the beach, the three of them in matching plaid at a pumpkin patch. An entire life I knew nothing about, captured in glossy frames probably bought with the money I thought was charity. Emma appeared in the doorway, book in her hands. She looked between us with the worried gaze children wear when they sense tension. Mom, who's this lady? Mom. Nicole was mom, and David was, what? Emma, sweetheart, why don't you go play in your room? Nicole said softly. But Dad was reading me the story. Dad, of course. He'd been there for her first steps, her birthdays, her scraped knees. But not for our sons' weddings, not for the birth of our actual grandchildren. I'll finish it later, honey. David murmured, eyes red. Emma pouted but left, her small footsteps fading upstairs. I sat down in an armchair, my composure cold and deliberate. Let me get this straight. 9 years ago, you met Nicole. You started an affair, she got pregnant. And instead of ending our marriage, or telling the truth, you decided to run 2 families at once. It wasn't like that, David said weakly. Then enlighten me. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly like that. Zolozend. You've been playing house with a woman young enough to be our daughter while I've been stretching retirement accounts and living on budgets. Nicole finally spoke, her voice steadier. I didn't know he was married. Not at first. That stopped me. I looked directly at her. She met my eyes, and I saw genuine pain there. I met David at a farmer's market. He told me he was divorced, working through it. By the time I found out the truth, I was already pregnant. And you stayed anyway, I said. He told me he was leaving you, that he just needed time, needed to figure out the finances. I believed him, too long, but I stayed. Emma needed her father. Her laugh was bitter. I'm tired of being the secret. Emma deserves better. How often does he come here? I pressed. 3, sometimes 4 times a month, weekends. Sometimes weekdays, when he said he was at a conference. Every conference, every training seminar, every night I spent alone suddenly rearranged itself in my memory. David disappeared upstairs and returned with a black leather binder, setting it on the table like a loaded gun. I opened it, line after line. Payments, transfers, expenses. The house down payment $50,000, renovations $32,000, SUV to $40,000, Emma's birth, medical bills, school tuition, camps, lessons, vacations. By the time I reached the last page, my stomach turned. $378,000. I read aloud, my voice flat. Nearly $400,000 of our money, diverted into this secret family. It was my salary, my bonuses too, David mumbled. I looked up, my voice like steel. Or was it more than that? Because these numbers don't add up. Silence. You took out a second mortgage on our home last year. Do you remember what you told me that was for? He stayed silent. You said it was tax restructuring. A bitter laugh escaped me. I signed those papers, my name, my liability, and you used it to bankroll this. Nicole's face had gone pale. David stood frozen by the window. And I'd, finally, understood the full scope of my husband's betrayal. Life would ever be the same again. Of those trendy cafes, meant to feel rustic and authentic, with reclaimed wood tables and Edison bulbs glowing overhead. Nicole was already seated when I arrived, hunched at a corner table, clutching a manila folder to her chest as though it were armor. She looked even worse than she had 2 days earlier. Dark circles pooled under her eyes, her hands trembling as she slid a lat toward me that she'd ordered ahead. Thanks for coming, she said softly. I wasn't sure you would. You told me David's planning something. I need to know what. Nicole opened the folder. Inside were financial statements, email chains, and legal documents. She spread them across the table, like evidence laid out in a courtroom. After you left, I tore through his office, she said, her voice cracking. He's been lying to us, stealing from you. I found these hidden in a locked drawer. I had to break it open. The first document was a will, dated 3 weeks ago. My stomach turned as I scanned it. He had left everything to Nicole and Emma. The Philadelphia house, retirement accounts, life insurance. Everything. My name appeared once, in a clause specifically excluding me due to irreconcilable differences and financial disputes. He can't do this, I whispered, though I wasn't fully sure of the law. We're still married. Pennsylvania protects spouses. Keep going, Nicole urged. The next paper chilled me a durable power of attorney, granting her full control if he became incapacitated. Beneath it, medical records, stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Diagnosis 8 months ago. He's dying, Nicole said needlessly. 6 months, maybe less. The doctor said it's aggressive. My mind reeled. David had known for nearly a year. He hadn't told me. Apparently, he hadn't even told Nicole until 3 days earlier. When did you find out? I asked. 3 days ago. After you showed up. He finally admitted it. Said he wanted to protect me from worry. Her bitter laugh made my chest ache. Nicole kept laying out more. 3 life insurance policies totaling $2 million, all naming her and Emma. Premiums likely siphoned from our joint accounts. Offshore emails with a Cayman advisor about trusts and hidden transfers. A forged quitclaim deed attempting to move our house into a trust under her control. The signature so fake even I could see it. Piece by piece, the picture formed. He had been planning this for years, to die, leave me buried in debt, and make Nicole and Emma rich. He was going to frame me, I said, my voice eerily calm. Make it look like I ruined our finances, then die and let you collect everything. Tears streamed down Nicole's face. I didn't know Maggie, I swear. When I saw all this, I was sick. I literally threw up. Why show me? You could have stayed silent, taken the money, disappeared. Because it's wrong, she said fiercely. I'm guilty of sleeping with a married man, of believing his lies. But I'm not a thief. Emma deserves better than stolen money. And you deserve to know the truth. For 3 hours, we sat there. 2 women who should have been enemies, bound together by the same man's web of deceit. Finally, I asked her the question gnawing at me. Did you love him? Nicole was quiet for a long time. I thought I did. At first, I believed he was divorced. By the time I learned the truth, Emma was 6 months old. He swore he'd leave you, said he just needed more time. For 7 years, I believed him. Her voice hardened. But when I found out about the cancer, about these documents, I knew. He never loved either of us. We were just convenient. I nodded. He told me he loved me every day for 35 years, and every single one was a lie. When I asked what she would do with the insurance money, she shook her head. I don't want it. Not like this. I'll manage with my job and my parents' help. I won't profit from fraud. That's when the idea struck. Dangerous, maybe illegal, but deeply satisfying. What if we made him face it all before he dies? Her eyes widened. How? I have a lawyer building a case. With this evidence, we can charge him now. Fraud, forgery, money laundering. If he's convicted, the insurance is void. The offshore money can be frozen. Nicole leaned in. I'm in. Whatever you need. Documents. Testimony. I'll help. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Thank you. For honesty you didn't owe me. 3 days later. My lawyer Gerald looked giddy flipping through the folder. This is a prosecutor's dream, he said. Fraud, forgery, elder abuse, insurance fraud. He'll spend what's left of his life in prison. Even then, satisfaction didn't come. Just a hollow ache. But Gerald had more. We found another account, $2 million in a Bohemian bank, under a shell company. He inherited 800,000 years ago. Told you it was 50. Hid the rest. Built it up through careful skimming and offshore games. I thought of all the years he'd told me no. No to Italy. No to helping our sons with their first homes. No to renovations. Always no, while he hoarded millions. File every charge, I said. Today, within weeks, federal marshals arrested David. I watched the evening news. My husband in handcuffs, doing the perp walk. He looked small, diminished. My son sat beside me, silent, stunned. Nicole called that night. Emma saw it. She's confused, crying. I told her the truth, an age-appropriate version. That he made mistakes and has to face consequences. Guilt twisted in me. I never wanted to hurt her. She'll be okay, Nicole said gently. Better she learns now that actions have consequences. Later, David offered a deal: pled guilty, full restitution, house arrest with hospice care. His cancer was spreading fast. The prosecutor agreed if Nicole and I did. I said yes, but only if he gave us a full notarized accounting of every dollar, every lie, and told our sons the truth himself. 2 weeks later, he did. For 2 hours, he confessed how he'd met Nicole, built a double life, siphoned millions. Finally, he admitted it was greed, cowardice, selfishness. That he'd stopped seeing me as a partner and started seeing me as an obstacle. The honesty was brutal, and 5 years too late. I demanded one more thing: a trust for Emma's education, $200,000 from the recovered funds. Nicole's eyes filled. Maggie, you don't have to. I know, I said. But Emma's innocent. She deserves a chance at a good future. David wept. I cut him off cold. I'm not doing it for you. Papers were signed. He was confined to hospice care. The money returned. Justice of a kind. 6 weeks later, Gerald called me in Florence. David was gone. I stood in front of Michelangelo's David, thanked Gerald, and hung up. I didn't go to the funeral. Neither did my sons. Months later, on a balcony in San Diego, I watched the Pacific sunset blaze gold and crimson. The last offshore funds had been recovered, $2.9 million. I'd bought a small apartment, helped my sons, set up trusts for my grandchildren, and secured Emma's education. The revenge I'd once craved had evolved into something richer: freedom. A message buzzed on my phone. Nicole, Emma started 3rd grade today. Sent you a photo. I opened it. A smiling girl with a backpack too big for her. David's nose. Nicole's eyes. None of the blame. I sent back a heart emoji, poured a glass of wine, and let the jazz fill my apartment. For the first time in 5 years, my life was truly, gloriously my own.